Welcome back to another episode of War Room Huddle Podcast, an RFG advisory podcast for independent financial advisors who want to crush everything and take their A game to the next level. Brought to you by RFG Advisory with your hosts, Shannon Spotswood, Bobby White, and Rick Waddell. This is War Room Huddle.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lance, for joining us today in War Room Huddle. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. We're excited.
Your first trip to Birmingham from Kansas, right?
Been through here a few times, but never stopped. So I'm excited about it, and we're loving it. So
well, good deal. It's there's nothing more fun for us than a day when we get to spend with our advisors, and we've obviously carved out a lot of time to talk about your strategy for growth in the future and succession planning and building your business. And, you know, for us, it's Christmas.
You know, we're going through this transition. It's been quite a process, but it's given us a little insight of now, where do we go now? What's the next step? And we're excited about that. So it's putting the pieces together and seeing where we end up. So we're excited.
Exactly. So what I'd love to start with, you've obviously had a tremendous career as a financial advisor and been in the business for a long time. So just, tee us up. Tell us about how you started your practice and how long you've been doing this and, what got you to this moment today.
My goodness, it's been a little over 32 years. And my first 4 or 5 years, I had a secondary job. I was working a night shift. And I promised myself when I made enough money doing this as a living, I can quit my night shift job. And so I was working in a battery plant, and it took me a couple of years, about 3 years in, I thought, I think I can do this. So I told my wife, and she says, if you're ready, let's do it.
Let's go.
And went after it full time. And she actually worked for me for a couple of years, and she's very helpful getting the business started. So she's been involved with me in the early years. And so I guess the first part of my career was what I learned most important was hire good people and surround yourself with good people. And I've done that. One of my first major hires, lady's been with me now about 22, 23 years. And she takes the business very seriously. She puts her heart into it. And so every time I've made a hire, I've been fortunate that it's been easy for me to bring them on board. I don't have to sell them on the process. What we're doing is important. And bringing on the team members that I've lately with 2 son-in-laws, that's been very important to me. And it's helped my drive in the business as far as I want to be successful, but I want to leave a successful business to them too. And so that's been fun to do.
I want to touch on 2 things. The first is, we have a lot of conversations with young advisors wanting to break into the business. And there is this it used to be easier because you could come in and sell commissionable product or, now you really have to build up this advisory business. And I was having this conversation just this past last week with a young advisor about how hard it is. And I just want you to spend a few minutes because you started by saying you got into this business working 2 jobs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and back then it was your livelihood in this business was 100% commission, and it didn't afford you the ability to be lazy. You had to really get after it. You had to make constant calls, and just there was nothing where you can sit back and just say, "Well, I'll just let the trails happen and live off that." It taught you had to get after it, and so a lot of things have changed since the early years, and I remember when they rolled out 12B1s, I thought, well, this is interesting. What's this going to look like as we get down the road in the business? And now we've switched the business to the advisory side. And as far as running the business, looking at the future of it, I'm excited about that part. And we're enjoying
what would be your advice to a young advisor getting into the business, knowing, recognizing that it has shifted more toward advisory? Like if this is really their passion, and they know they want to be an advisor, but they also recognize that they have to cross that, $10 million is kind of
Right.
minimum starvation level,
Yeah.
if you will. What's your advice to that? I mean, you obviously were willing to do whatever it was going to take.
And I did. I went at 11 o'clock at night, got off at 7:30 in the morning, slept for a couple hours, then got after it. And I had a great, again, I give my wife a lot of credit for that. She kept me rolling. As a young person coming in, it's hard to relate in today's world the way business is done. But if they had a chance to team up with a good team, I would encourage that process. Don't think you have to go out and create it all on your own. Just look for a good team to team up with. But as far as building a practice on the advisory side, there's nothing easy out there. But man, the rewards are just amazing. If you're willing to put the time in and the effort in, yeah, you're going to starve for a few years. And if you have to do something, figure it out. But it's doable. You've got to have the drive and you've got to have the passion to do this. And one thing I learned early in my career, I love to hear people's stories. And the stories were in the financial planning process. It brought out the ability to see passion in your clients, understand what was important to them. And they would come in years later and they're sharing, hey, my first kid's off to college and we paid for it. Yeah. Or we had a death in the family, but we're going to be okay. Those are stories that make the career fun and it makes it rewarding. So, and there's hundreds of those. And the further you get into your career, the more of those stories you see. And we talk about how do you survive in this business? How do you grow this business? The more of those stories you're able to relate to, the more of those children are going to hear mom and dad talking about it. And they're going to say, this is the guy that helped me get there. And this is the guy who took the time to tell us to make sure we did this and got a will and put money away for your schooling. And he was not telling us what we always wanted to hear, but he told us what we needed to hear. And so those are the things I think drive your passion in this business. It's hard at the early years, but my goodness, it's rewarding as you get into your career.
One of the things Bobby and I always say back and forth to each other is, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it really is that simple. Like there are just times you got to put your shoulder to the wheel and do what you have to do to make your dreams come true.
That's it. If you have the passion and understanding this business, my early years, I really didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what the potential was, but just getting after it and every year seeing the potential, it's been fun. But again, for me, the rewards are the relationships we built and just hearing the different stories.
So you just recently turned 60. We're a decade apart. I just recently turned 50. So we're, critical moments in our lives, milestones. Talk to us about like your thoughts. You're as energized now as you've ever been about the business. What do you see on the horizon of being in the wealth management industry that has you so excited about, continuing down and continuing to work?
I was thinking about that as far as the technology we're dealing with today that we didn't have. I remember my first 4 or 5 years, you didn't even have a computer on your desk. Right. Everything was done with a piece of paper.
Rolodex.
Yeah, you do it on a piece of paper and you'd send it into somewhere. Someone there had a computer. They'd do a financial plan and mail it back to you. And you look at the technology today to be able to get interactive with the client doing a financial plan. And they can pull it up at home and look at what you've been working on. And the feedback is what's making the process fun again. You can go through a little burnout. You can get tired in this business, but I think where we're at with RFG and the technology they put on the table, it's given us the ability to engage in a conversation a little different than we have in the past. And I'm excited about that. I'm 60, but I don't care. Right. I'm ready to roll.
You're just getting started.
Keep it cranking. So,
well, you're one of the few, statistically speaking, who have been really intentional about thinking about your financial succession plan for the business that you've built. You've spent your life's work in building the Billings Group. And, the statistics continue to bear out. Only 15% of financial advisors have a succession plan. Average age of a financial advisor is about 64 years old. You've been incredibly fortunate that your two son-in-laws have joined your practice. Talk about that. Talk about because that's not a no-brainer. I mean, you start to mix family and business and it gets complicated. So talk about bringing your two son-in-laws and the decision to do that. And then I want to spend some time on succession planning.
Hiring my Josh, my first son-in-law, he's been with me 11 years. He came to me. He didn't have any idea what financial planning was, but I saw the ability in him, and he's just both of these guys have so much talent. But the fact that they were willing to work as a team and come in and focus on what our objectives were, what our goals are, it's not an easy thing to do. Hiring anyone, let alone a son-in-law, but we've been successful of focusing on business, but we always have time for the personal side. Yeah. There's never been a business that I'm going to put in front of my family. So I always have my faith, my family, and then my business. And I'm not going to change from that, but we have the ability to talk personally if we have to. But we spend our time, we're goal orientated as a team. I want
You're competitors.
We're competitors. Yeah, we're driven. And what's unique about having two son-in-laws, you get to hear what's going on in their lives, and because I want to know how my families are doing and my daughters are doing and the grandchildren, and I look at that as a privilege to be able to work with these two guys, and I hope I can teach them, and it makes me feel good even after they've both been here 11 and almost 6 years. They still come and ask questions once in a while. Or can you sit in on this and give us your thought on this and your input? And so that for me, I enjoy that because I've looked how far they've gone and how they've matured in the business. It's a process, but yeah, it's been fun.
Well, and I think it's such a unique perspective because the decision to be intentional about succession planning really requires, a couple different things, and they're all very emotional. One is this idea of mortality, that we're not all going to live together, that we have to be thinking about, which is ironic because we're in the business of financial planning and multi-generational wealth preservation and protection, but it does require you to have those long looks in the mirror and think about some things that you might want to avoid. It also requires the kind of openness of your mindset that they're going to do things their own way. They're not going to be like mini Lance copycats. Right. They're going to have their own fingerprint on the business. Yeah,
that when I first hired them, your thought is, are these guys going to be able to do this? And as they've learned what we do and they've built their personal skill sets, they both have their niche where they have just unbelievable talent. The hard thing for me, or maybe what I had to learn for me personally, was get out of the way and let these guys focus on what they're good at and enjoy what they're good at. As a team, it's even me asking their opinion on things and giving them the ability to just run. I don't want to be in their way. I want to let them run as far and fast as they want to run. And I've learned to just, if they come to me for advice, I'm going to give it. I'm never going to walk into their office and give them advice without them asking first, unless I see something crazy. Yeah. But and so I'm giving them room to grow and grow in their style and the methods that they're comfortable with, not my methods or my comfort range. Here's what you're good at. Go run with it.
Go do it. Yeah. How has it changed in terms of your clients' level of just confidence in working with the Billings Group, having a very clear idea of what that succession plan looks like?
Yeah, you get a question all the time of, so we've been with you for 10, 20 years. What happens when you're gone or if you're not here tomorrow? And so I've made a practice with both these guys to have them sit in on meetings. We do a lot of joint meetings, and I make sure the client understands why they're in that meeting. Is one, I want them to be as acquainted with you as I am. If I'm gone tomorrow, sick, whatever, death, I want you to know that someone's going to step into my place and you're not going to have any interruptions. They're going to know your story. They're going to know what's important about you. And if we know those things, it's going to be a personal relationship. And so the hard part for me is backing off from those relationships. When I see Josh or Nathan taking the lead on the relationship, it's now that the client will come in and sit in their office and I'll go in and sit in the side chair. Right. And that's been quite a process for me, but I'm also very proud that these guys are doing what they do. I can sit back and listen to them, and I'm impressed with the skill sets I see. So for me, that's rewarding.
Well, and you're clearly doing a great job of showcasing the opportunity available in financial planning, because your daughter also works with you in the practice. And then your youngest daughter, who's just graduated from high school, is exploring some collegiate level courses and CFP level courses. She's
starting here in about a month. And she's asking me questions. And so I'm excited to see how she does. And just as she gets more exposed to what we do, I think there's a lot of potential there. And so with my oldest daughter involved in the business, and she's not married to either one of the Josh or Nathan, so I have 5 daughters. So
the man has patience.
Yes, without a doubt. But I'm excited to see how both of them, what they can do with their careers. I guess that's part of the drive I have. I've always wanted to make sure my wife and I are fine, but I want to make sure my children have the opportunity to succeed. I know it's not my responsibility, but if I can help make that and be part of that, I'm excited about that. That drives me. So.
Well, when you first asked me about what kind of programs are there for young people in the industry, I was like, let me get on my soapbox. Right, by the year 2030, 67% of wealth will be controlled by women. And we only have right now 14% of financial advisors are women, and that number's not going up.
Yeah.
So there is so much opportunity.
You knocked it out of the park. We got a hold of you. I think my wife sent you an email. I sent an email to you. I didn't know she was doing it. But we were both really impressed with how quick you got back and a very detailed list. And we're both excited to see what this young lady can do. We adopted her when she was 18, and we're so proud of her. And so it'll be fun to see what she does in the future.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, that's one thing I'll jump on all day long is how can I help more women get into our business? I loved getting that email.
Are you an advisor looking to make the move to independence? RFG Advisory is an innovator in the wealth management industry with a winning culture and a fully integrated tech platform designed to help advisors take their practice to the next level. Let us get to know you at rfgadvisory.com.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about becoming fully independent, because you obviously spent the bulk of your career at Waddell & Reed.
Yeah.
Your affiliation with RFG is new, and being fully independent is new.
It is. And I'm honestly not sure how to answer that question, because I've been in an environment where it feels like everything was orchestrated and here's the parameters that you have to operate in. And so I'm just really getting used to this independent status. What's it mean? I'm feeling very comfortable with it, but I'm truly not sure yet what it's going to look like 6 months from now or a year from now. But I am seeing, just with not only myself, but with Josh and with Nathan, the excitement that we're making decisions that are going to impact us. And no one's out there dictating the steps we have to take, or how many we can take and what direction it has to be. And so we're really feeling that this is the introduction to independence. And I'm liking what we're experiencing.
Well, and what's exciting, and what we've been talking about today, is that in the context of independence, you get to really start thinking about your practice as a business. I mean, you've always thought of it as a business, but now you have control over all of the levers of that business. How to maximize the highest utility of everybody's time, how to structure a succession plan, what does ownership look like in the business? Like, how do you drive and create future enterprise value?
That's probably over the last 6 months, as we've gone through this transition, one of the things that has brought more stress on me is understanding now, what do I do? Yes, because I am 60. What's this look like when I'm ready to step down? Yeah. And the ownership of the business. One thing I have no problem with this is, giving some reward for their effort, changing the ownership, how much percentage and how fast over time. I'm excited about the capacity to do that. It's not a pride thing for me. It's scary to know that someday I will be retired. But I know I have the ability to do that at my pace. And so, it's going to be fun to see how things progress over the next few years.
Well, what I think is going to be so exciting is that you guys all run so hard. You're all self-admitted workaholics. Yeah. That what you're going to find as we go through this journey is that when you have time to be able to take those vacations and unplug from the business, it gives you longevity. Yeah. You're not going to have to get to that point where I've got to retire so that I can free up time. Instead, you're going to find the time and still be able to be actively engaged as an advisor in running and growing and building the Billings Group.
Yeah, that's we're all three guilty of that. It's taking the time to get away, regenerate our batteries, and more importantly, taking time with our families. And I think if we keep those in the right order, we're still going to enjoy doing business. And if you get them out of order, you get the risk of burnout. And that I'm guilty of that. It's so after this transition of 6 months, I'm ready for that, a week off or just take some time and breathe again.
Go fishing.
Yeah. Fishing and just get out and have a good time, and even just getting on the tractor. I'm pretty good with that. So, yeah.
Why do you think that is? I mean, you hear that so often from advisors of like, I can't unplug. I'm just, I can't relax. Why do you think that is?
I think sometimes, me personally, you get involved, you fall into the trap of watching the market every day, and the market's up, the market's down, and how's that going to affect my clients? And then if you realize we've been working on this plan, and it's not based on what the market does day to day, and you got to get out of that trap of thinking every day you've got to be there, in just in case that client might call and they're worried about something. If you've done your planning right, if you put the pieces in the right order, you're not running a financial plan based on one day's environment. And I guess for me, it's learning not to fall into that trap. Even after 32 years, I try not to even look at the market during the day. It's because it's just a nuisance to see what's going on. Clients will call and say, "Are you worried about what?" Yeah. And right. That's what I have to make myself do every day, is just not look, and remind the client that who cares what it's doing today? How's that going to affect you and your plan? And has things changed in your life that we need to be talking? And focus on those things. And that way I can make myself get away and relax a little more.
One of the other big changes that you all made in going independent is really partnering with Bluemonte for investment management. So you were in the trench, managing all your client portfolios, researching mutual funds, ETFs, like doing all of that. We talk all the time about the highest and best use of an advisor's time yes. is engaging in that relationship with clients and prospects. So how did you get to that point where you were willing to not define yourself as an asset manager, but instead you're a financial life coach, a financial coach, like you're going to partner with an expert to help in the investment management piece?
For me personally, that was almost a pride issue, thinking, man, our portfolio's done pretty well. And we've done an okay job. But then I had to evaluate how many hours a quarter we were spending building portfolios and adjusting those portfolios and not seeing clients. And so Bluemonte, we're just under 100 million with Bluemonte right now. And our goal is just to keep going in that direction. We're enjoying the process of sitting back and not having to think about building a portfolio, and go back to being financial advisors, let the client define to us what their risk tolerance is, and use the tools that are already there for us. And so, yeah, at first it was tough for me to make that move, but over the last 6 months, we haven't had to have a meeting and sit and hash out which funds we like, and tons of phone calls. It has freed up a lot of hours for not only myself, but Josh and Nathan, where we can go back to doing the planning, but I see the stress off of their faces too. What if we chose the wrong fund, or why did we choose this fund, and how do we justify what we chose? And we're not having that conversation. And so right now it's going back to what's on the client's mind, and what do we have to do to get from point A to point B.
It's a really powerful, I think, assessment on highest and best use of time, because that's what your clients want from you.
Yeah.
They want that like full engagement on their life.
Yeah. They want to know you're available.
Yeah.
And that you're not tied up doing things that are taken away from what they're asking for. So it's that's one thing I do. And again, you fall into the trap of, do I always have to be there? But if I have the right team in place,
right,
I can know that these guys are going to tell the client exactly what I'm going to say, because we're all wired the same, I think, as far as what our objective and our goals are. But with the investment team, with Bluemonte working for us, and what we're doing with the RFG team, we're excited. We're looking forward to the next 5-10 years.
Us too. Talk to me about Salina. It's a really special place. You're obviously from there. You grew up there. Just talk about what it means from your legacy, from a responsibility perspective, for building your business, raising your family in your hometown.
Yeah, born and raised there. It's you build your friendships there. It's been a fun place to grow a business. I've shared my father has his tax business. He's 86, still doing taxes. He and my brother run that business together. And it's fun to see our clients that we work with. A lot of those do their taxes over there, or we'll send them over there to get their taxes done, or vice versa. But the city itself, it's a 50,000 population community, and it's just the whole environment of that part of the state. It's not so big that you can't go out there and feel like you belong in the community. Or you can have an impact in your community if it's through a charitable or through your church or whatever your goals are. But it's been a good place for me to raise my children. And so we enjoy it.
It's a beautiful town. It is. Loved seeing it. One of the things that has been so strongly communicated as you were telling us a story about Billings Group, and as we were building and thinking about your branding and marketing, is your investment in the community and your faith. How does that all, one of the things that I think is interesting is our industry tends to want to put the stuff that's most important to advisors in a box and separate it out from the business. But one of the things that has made you so successful, and not just from a financial perspective, but looking back on your career and really thinking like the success I've had is because of the lives I've impacted. So, talk about how you've woven in the community, your love of your hometown, your faith into building your business.
For me, that's a pretty personal question. I've put my faith first, and just working in the church since I've been in the high school, teaching kids, high school, junior high, and my first class I taught was kindergartners. And it's just, but I'm passionate about that. I think for me, if you put your priorities in the right order, it's always been put my faith first and walk that walk. And if I do that right, it'll help me be a better husband, better father. None of us are perfect, but I want those things to have priority in my life. And Salina has given me the ability to do that. And if I have everything in the right order, my business will be third. And I've always noticed in my life, when I put my business first, things get out of whack a little bit. And so if I keep them in the right priority, things seem to be better in my life, better in my business, and in my personal life. So that's the challenge for me, is making sure all those stay in the right order.
Well, you've been doing a great job of it so far. All right. So I got one last question for you, Lance. And this is one of the things I love. And it came from our meeting earlier. You said, I want to be number one in the state of Kansas. And then you look at the map and you see the four corners about how much growth really is ahead of you.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, when you would look back, 32 years ago, turning 60, and feel like you're really almost at the beginning of what is, I believe, going to be the most kind of exciting and most growth-oriented chapter of your professional career?
I really do. Looking at the next 10, 15 years, not just for me, but for our team, think there's some doors open that I haven't felt have been opened. I am very, very competitive. I like to do business, but I like to put challenges ahead of myself. I'm goal orientated. And I've got two guys on my team that are wired like that. If we can challenge each other, just set the stage out there, we're going to go after it. But just looking at our state that we're in and the surrounding states, we see a lot of opportunity there, and we're wanting to go after it and have fun doing it. And as long as we do it right and keep our priorities straight, I think we'll enjoy the ride getting there. So
we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are. Definitely.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in, Lance. It was fantastic to sit down with you in the war room.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again.
We will. Yeah, this is good. We're enjoying it.
It's fun.
It's good.
Thank you for tuning in to War Room Huddle. War Room Huddle is a production of RFG Advisory, a leading innovator in the wealth management industry. To learn more about RFG Advisory, head on over to rfgadvisory.com and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of War Room Huddle.